What is going on, guys? Thank you guys so much for checking out the video today. My name is Alex, aka Biggie Cheese, aka King Cheese, back here again with another Cypher setup tutorial. Today we're going to be showing off Bind. We're going to be starting with A site on Bind and then moving over our way towards B. So come along, take a look with us, and let's go ahead and check out these setups. So starting out with our first setup here on A, we're going to want to go ahead and put one tripwire right here going towards lamps. After we place the tripwire, we're going to want to go ahead and put a trap right about there on the tripwire. We're going to go ahead and throw our camera right there, making sure we get a good view of the main area of pushing. After that, we're going to want to go ahead and throw a tripwire right about here. That way, if they start to push onto site, we can go ahead and throw another trap right about here. That way, they decide to push onto site. We can push them more towards site, push them more towards this trap or this trap by activating that. So we're going to want to go ahead and position ourselves right here. This is where we'll be. If you are on the enemy team, you will go ahead and see this. If you're pushing on the enemy team and you're going through here, this is probably what you're going to be seeing. The camera will be right here. It is pretty hard for you to see at first. You're going to be focusing here, maybe sometime over here. You could catch a glimpse of that maybe, but it's a little bit harder. So that'll be what you see if you're coming in and attacking. Then they go ahead and pop this. You won't be able to see really much of anything. Let's say you decide to push over here. You get pushed into another cage, very confused, don't want to stay out in the open too long, and you get tripped by this trap. Inversely, if you are the defender side and you are the Cypher who has put these traps, you're going to want to be making sure that you are keeping a good eye right here on A short, making sure that you check cubby and making sure that no one is able to go through teleporter without your expressed permission. So once you start to hear footsteps, once you start to hear people, once you potentially are able to tag someone, you're going to want to go ahead and pop that cage. That way you'll be able to just go ahead, start blasting through. They might be able to see you if they jump on the boxes, but for the most part, that should be a pretty good cage right there. Then if they start to push in a little bit more, you go ahead, keep an eye there, pop that one with your camera. Make sure that you're able to start spraying, getting through the lines, and seeing where their dead bodies will lie. Now, if the pushing site has changed a bit differently, let's say they're starting to push more towards B, maybe they're going up into hookah, maybe trying to get a cheeky little fast push there, you're going to want to make sure you still have this trap right here. Keep yourself safe. You're going to want to go ahead and put that up. You start to hear them. You go ahead, do that, pop that through, and you'll be good to go. Moving on to our second setup here for Cypher on A site, we're going to want to go ahead and keep this tripwire in the exact same place. Going to want to go ahead and keep camera right around here. This time we're going to put a different trap right here. Granted, with this trap, if the enemies decide to hop on this box, they will be able to see it and shoot it right here. So you have to keep a little bit more of an eye on this trap right here. From the tripwires, you're going to want to go ahead and set up a cage trap. This is actually going to be one way. It's probably going to be one of the most difficult one ways to set up in the entire game. You're going to want to make sure that you have your crosshair and UI lined up with mine directly, making sure the bottom of your UI is lined up there, making sure your crosshair is lined up right about here where you're directly in front of teleporter. Then you're just going to want to chuck that baby up right there. It's a really finicky spot, but if you get it down, this is going to be a stupendous one way for you. Then just place your last final trap right here again in front of this tripwire, just to make sure that they will be a little bit less aware of the tripwire since they will be stuck in that trap. Now, if you are an enemy pushing into this is probably what you're going to see. Again, camera, same position, you're going to see that. People start to see you, people start to hear you. This will go ahead and get popped. Once that gets popped, you cannot see through all the way through to lamps at all. You will be at the mercy of whoever is on the other side of the lamps, which should be the Cypher. From the defender's side, from the point of view of you or whoever is sitting in the lamps, it is going to be the same situation as the other setup, making sure you are keeping an eye on A short with this camera. Once you start to do that, once you start to see people moving in towards here, you can go ahead, tag them, activate that, and then just go ahead and blasting. You'll want to make sure that you keep an eye on that trip to see if they break it or trip it, and if they do either or, you're going to want to make sure that cage is up. You're going to want to make sure you're blasting. They start to push in more. You're going to want to go ahead and push that trigger, making sure you're detonating at the correct times, making sure you're spraying, and making sure you're eating the cheese. Now, let's say you want to go ahead and set yourself up more towards bath site, more towards showers. This is perfectly fine. What you're going to want to go ahead and do, though, is keep most of your utility through A short. That being because Bath is a very, very short one pushing position. So if you put anything in here, they'll hear it, they'll see it too quickly. You won't be able to take advantage of it when you want to take advantage of things. So make sure you have both your traps set up as so. Make sure you have your tripwire right there going through the box. Make sure you have this tripwire there going through the teleporter. Make sure you have a piece of cheese in your hand. That way you can eat it in between the rounds. Then you want to go ahead, put another trap there. Move on over toward shower. You're going to want to go ahead and put your camera right about there. There we go. Get a good view of shower. Make sure you're looking right about there. You'll be able to see their feet. If they decide to move up towards boxes over here, you'll see that. Then you're just going to want to keep an eye on that. Make sure that you're not giving yourself away too much to the enemy right there. And then you're just going to want to make sure that you're also keeping an eye on this right here. Maybe throw another trap right about there. If you start to hear them come in again in nearby showers, you're just going to want to go ahead and pop those. Start firing. Hit the traps. Get the win. A bit of an issue with this one, though. You do give up lamps depending on if you have a teammate there or not. You also do give up the opportunity for them to go through teleporter. So just keep all that in mind when you are go ahead and setting this setup up. That is going to go ahead and wrap up our couple of setups that we have over there for A site. Now we are going to move our attention towards B. Starting with another cage setup, we are going to want to go ahead and get in this corner right here. Then we're going to want to go ahead and make sure that we have our cursor lined up right about there. Then we're going to want to go ahead and throw that trap right about there. I would say Bind has some of the most finicky and precise one-ways, so you'll want to be a bit cautious when you're throwing these and making sure you're really practicing them and that you know where they can go. After setting up the one-way, you're going to want to go ahead and move your way into hookah right here. You're going to want to go ahead and throw a cage there. You're going to want to make sure that this tripwire is lined up just about there. That way you can get it right on the corner of the side of the wall, making sure it just catches the little lip of that. Then from there, you're going to want to make sure you have a trap set up right here in the back. That way, if they decide to destroy this and push through and back up, they will not be able to. And then from there, once the round starts, obviously, this is going to be covered before the round starts. But once the round starts, you're going to want to immediately go ahead and throw your camera right about there. I'll show that again. Bam. And now I know what you're thinking. How can you see anything if you put this camera here? That's because you're not trying to see B short. You're trying to see right here. That way, they can't see the camera before it's too late. They can't peek it and shoot it. And that way, you get a bit more of precise info of when they're exactly pushing in. So you just make sure that you have that good to go. You're taking a look. If they start to push in a little bit, you start to see that. You can go ahead and do that. Hit your cage. Start firing through them. Get some good pot shots in. Then from there, you're going to want to make sure that you're playing a little bit more passively. That way, you don't get shot. You're going to want to go ahead and move a little bit back here, all while making sure you're still keeping your camera up and taking a look and seeing who is in there. Then from there, once you start to see people come into hookah, you activate the one-way. They can't see you, and you can't see them. No, I'm just kidding. You should be able to see them through your tripwire or through your trap, whether you target them with your camera or not. But either way, this will be a good way to confuse them. It'll be a great way to get them trapped in hookah, not knowing what they want to do next. And they will definitely try to wallbang you through here, so just make sure you're keeping an eye on that. Make sure you're aware of any jets dashing in, and make sure you're playing a bit more passively with this setup. On to our second setup here on B site. What we're going to want to go ahead and do is make sure we have the same tripwire right here, making sure it's catching just the lip of the dip right there. Then we're going to want to go ahead and throw one of our cages right here in front of hookah. Going to want to make sure our camera is positioned right about... It'll work with me. Why don't you love me? I think I saw it for a split second. Aha! Once you're able to get the camera right there, it is a bit of a wonky thing, but once you're able to get the camera right here, you're going to want to make sure that it is positioned on the ceiling right there. Then you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that you have a tripwire going to be long a little bit in front of garden, and make sure you place a trap just slightly in front of that. Or excuse me, a cage. Once you have it all set up, you're going to want to go ahead and put yourself on box right here, facing towards hookah. You're going to want to make sure you get that good angle right there. Taking a look, seeing who's coming in, making sure you're able to tag them. They start to push in a little bit more. You're able to shoot them down, maybe even activate your cage, being able to push them through. That'll all be hunky-dory, good to go. Now, if you're the enemy pushing into this, you're going to want to be a bit worried. You're going to be checking every corner. You're going to be seeing that camera right there. The camera is a bit of an inopportune camera. You're going to want to make sure that you wait until they are significantly inside, making sure they're about right here. You cannot move it any further to the right. So you're going to want to make sure that they are decently within hookah. Then as the attacker, you're going to be making sure you're checking for everything. You're going to be making sure you're looking at all the angles. That cage pops. You're very confused. This setup works really, really well because your attackers are going to have to be checking 17 different angles from hookah as well as long. So you'll want to be catching them by surprise with the camera, catching them by surprise with wall bangs, catching them by surprise with the trap right there, with the cage right there. And then as long as you have a teammate or you're not exposing yourself entirely to long, you should be good to go. Because unfortunately with this setup, you do tend to expose yourself a decent amount towards long. So just make sure you don't do that if you need to. Maybe even activate a cage, even though they'll still be able to hear your gunshots. Just hope that they don't shoot you through the random spray. Entering into our next setup here, we're going to want to go ahead and set up more towards B long on this side. We're going to make sure we have our camera right there. I'll show you again how that goes ahead. Going to want to go ahead and place it right there. We're going to do a little bit of a cheeky trap right here. We're going to make sure that it is lined up perfectly with the ground and just get it right there. Bam. As you can see, it is blue. Blue is goo. It is good to go. Shout out Goo Clump. It is very, very easy to do that. It takes a little bit to realize where it is, but once you do, it is not that hard. We're going to want to go ahead and set up our second tripwire here, which is very, very good. It allows you to make sure that you have no enemies pushing onto site. Enemies will try to jump up on box. Enemies will try to do other shit. Granted, they can drop through this. However, if they are pushing onto site and getting pressured, they are probably not going to be aware that there is a trap right in front of the middle of the site. After getting the tripwire set up, you're going to want to make sure that you have a cage placed right about here, maybe a little bit more towards the right side of it, and then you're going to want to make sure that you have a cage placed right around here. These are to prevent the enemies from seeing the tripwires easier. That way, if you have a jet dashing in or a Raze blast packing in asking you if you have talked about your car's extended warranty soon, you are going to want to make sure that you pop these cages before they're able to dash in. That way they will be able to have a harder time seeing the tripwires. From there, it's just making sure you keep an eye on the footsteps, keep an eye on all that, then pop, make sure that that's good to go, make sure that they can't see where the tripwire is, pop that one, and you're good to go. And last but not least, we are going to go ahead and move up to our final setup here on Bind on B site. What we are going to want to go ahead and do is hop on this box again, make sure we have our camera placed right about there, good to go. Then from there, we're going to want to make sure that we have our tripwire placed right there in the sand, wanting to make sure that it flattens out like a pancake, covering all the area. Make sure you got a cage right there. Same thing on the other side, throwing it right about, making sure it covers the maximum amount of distance. Right about there, making sure it gets covering all that area. Another trap right here. This is going to be a one-man army setup. You will be able to hold this site completely on your own, no questions asked. From there, you are perfectly safe in tube. You're going to want to make sure you keep an eye on long and hookah. And then from there, it's just a matter of knowing when they're coming, hearing them, and then activating your cages. From there, you start to shoot. You start to make sure that they don't see your traps. This is a very, very wonderful setup for having this site completely on your own and not having any help. From the attacker's point of view, if you are pushing up B long and you start to push in and you don't really see anyone on site or know what's going on, and then you start to see these trapped, you're going to be very confused. You don't know how many people are behind site. There could be the entire team, and all the while, you're getting tagged by the camera. Now let's pretend that I am a cheeky little jet and I'm go ahead and jumping up, diving in, delivering people's mail through hookah. I go ahead and dash in. These get triggered. I get pulled by that. I get shot by that, and it's fish in a barrel. This jet will have no idea what is happening. There will be nothing that they can see, nothing that they can do to stop them from the demise. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be our entire setups for Bind here for Cypher. Thank you guys very, very much for checking out this video. I appreciate it a lot. I am so very excited to keep doing more of these. I hope you guys are excited as well. Let me know what you think is the favorite and best Cypher setup on Bind. If it's something I haven't done, make sure to show it to me. Make sure to comment down below. Make sure to like the video if you would like, if you enjoyed it. Make sure to tell me what I did wrong. Make sure to tell me what I could do better. And I will see you guys on the next video.